Hi, I'm Stephanie and welcome to my YouTube channel. So, on this channel, I share my QA experience and my general tech experience. I'd like you to support me by liking my videos, commenting, and subscribing if you haven't done that already. Thank you. Alright, let's get into today's video. So this video is going to be about functional and non-functional testing. So there are a lot of tests you can carry out on your applications and I'm here to help you understand what these tests do. Functional testing involves performing tests that focus on what the system does. So that includes its behavior and its features. And this usually tests logic, user flows, and acceptance criteria. So what this means is that the test check if your app can do what it's designed to do. For example, you have a food delivery app where users can see restaurants in their area, they can browse, see their menus, and place orders to be delivered to them. So, functional tests will verify if when you select an item from the menu, you can successfully add it to your cart and then place the order. And there are a lot of functional tests you can perform, like unit testing, integration testing, system testing, and a whole lot of others. So, I'll get into those in a bit, but let's look at non functional testing first. So, non functional testing comprises of tests that focus on how the system performs under certain conditions. So, it could be how fast a website loads, if it's easy to use, or if it can support 1,000 users at a time. And there are various types of non functional tests like performance, security, reliability, and usability. All right, now that we've covered that, I would like us to get into the types of functional tests you can perform on your system. We are starting with unit testing. Unit testing is done to test individual components or functions in isolation. So you have to make sure that the basic building blocks of your system work well first before you can move on to other things. So you take this house for example, it has a roof, it has windows, and it has a door. In unit testing, before you couple everything together, you have to make sure that the door works, the windows are fine. If it's glass, you need to make sure the glass is not broken, and that the roofing materials are of a good standard. Now, looking at this login page and applying that, you have to make sure that the email text field works fine on its own. Same with the password field and then the button before you bring them all together. Integration testing. This is where you bring your individual components together. So here you bring different modules of your system to test them together. And going back to our house example, now that you verify that the doors and the windows are good enough to be fitted, when you fit them to your house and they work fine, you can say that your entry and ventilation systems work as expected. Now, going back to this our login page, you verify that the email field, the passwords, and the button work fine. So you enter a valid email and a password, and then you click the login button. So when you've logged in, you've successfully tested the login functionality. System testing. So this is where you test your entire application end to end. Remember, in our previous test, you only checked the login functionality. You haven't verified whether you can place an order successfully. So here is where you test everything in your system. So from the login in, browsing through different restaurants, selecting items, removing the ones you no longer want, and then placing an order. And just like our house, here you put everything together, the roof, the doors, the windows, plumbing, furnishing, and you're ready to move in. Our next test is user acceptance testing or UAT. So these are tests that are done to validate the system against business needs. So this checks that all the user requirements have been met. For example, our food delivery app, the stakeholders decided to add a ratings feature after a delivery. So here you can give 1 to 5 stars or you can just choose to skip this altogether. So UAT ensures that the features are properly implemented so that when you select 5 stars, the order gets rated accordingly. Regression testing. This ensures that new changes don't break existing features. So if you have to change the doors on our house, after that we need to check that the windows work fine too and someone did not mistakenly throw a hammer through them while they were working on the door. So same with our food ordering app. After adding the ratings feature, we have to make sure that nothing else was broken. We have to test and make sure that users can still successfully place orders and have them delivered to them. This is regression testing. And finally, smoke testing. So, smoke testing involves tests that are done to test the critical functions of an app to make sure that they work as expected. If you notice, sometimes people move into a house before it's completed. Maybe it hasn't been painted yet, or some toilets haven't been fitted, or there's no furniture. But the house has a roof, it has doors and windows, and it's secure. So, same thing with your application. Sometimes you might not have time to test everything, but you need to test the basic functionalities to make sure that they work as expected. Okay, now we're moving on to non-functional testing. I like non-functional tests because they're quite interesting and you most likely see something different every time. And it looks at how well your system does something. So that's cool. All right, we're starting with performance testing. So, performance testing measures speed, responsiveness, and stability of your application. So, it tests how long it takes your app to load or perform various functions. If your app takes more than 2 seconds for the homepage to load, or you have to click a button multiple times, it checks for that. It also checks to see if your app looks good on phones and desktop devices to make sure that some text is not cut out on the website and everything looks good. You can use tools like web page test to check how long it takes for your website to load. Next is accessibility testing. This tests to see how accessible your app is for people with disabilities. You focus on things like color contrast and compatibility with accessible technology like voiceovers. So the test can be manual or automated. Load and stress testing. Load testing is where you test the behavior of your system at different expected load capacities. For example, you simulate 8,000 users on your online shopping app to see how it performs at peak times like Black Friday when you have more traffic. Then for stress testing, you're pushing your system beyond its breaking point to see how it feels. So your online shopping app is designed to support 8,000 users at a time, but then you simulate 8,005 users to see what happens. Does your system fail safely? Does it crash? Do you lose all your data? And does it restrict access to certain parts of the system? So you test to see all of that and know how your system behaves. And you can do this with tools like Apache JMeter. Scalability testing. So this determines the app's ability to grow with demand. Say when you were starting your e-commerce app, you targeted a maximum of 1,000 users, but somehow somewhere posted about your product and then you have a lot more customers and you need to accommodate for that. So do you have to go and build a whole system altogether or you can easily make provisions for this and scale your business up? And then moving on to security testing. This evaluates your system's defenses against attacks. So it could be you or someone on your team trying to hack your system to see how easy it is, or testing your user permissions to make sure that only authorized users have access to sensitive parts of your system, or testing your two factor authentication. So there are a lot of various tests you can do under security testing just to see how secure your app is. Usability testing. Okay, so this is an interesting one because it measures how easy it is to use your application and the overall user experience. For your app, you have to know your target audience and you need to know how easy your application is to use for them. Let's say you design a dating app for older people, you need to take that into consideration and use icons and buttons that are large and they are familiar with to ensure that they get the best user experience. And most times this is done manually, so you can visually take note of how easy your app is to use by your target audience. So this is not to be confused with UAT testing, which is a functional type of testing. Remember, with UAT, you are verifying that the features that were specified in the requirements were actually met at the end of the day. While with usability testing, you're just trying to see if your app is easy to use, if you're happy while using the app, or you're frustrated because you cannot find the button somewhere or get access to some details you're looking for. Now, moving on to reliability testing. Reliability testing checks the stability of your application under stress over a long period of time. So we've covered stress and load tests, and we know that they have to do with checking your system's behavior at different loads and at its breaking points. Now, when your system is operating at maximum capacity for a long period of time, you have to check how your system is. So does it recover well and go back to normal, or are certain parts of your system crashing? You can do this with JMeter by simulating multiple users for an extended period of time on dev and production environments when you have less traffic or maybe a scheduled maintenance. And finally, we have compatibility testing. With compatibility testing, you have to check your system's functionality across various environments and devices. So you need to know how your system performs on Android versus iOS devices. Are your users getting the same experience? Does your app load well across all browsers, or maybe on Firefox some parts don't work well? So you need to check all this, especially if your target audience use various devices and browsers to access your applications. All right, we have spoken a lot about functional and non-functional testing. So I'd like to leave you with a tip to know where a test falls under. So if it tests to see if a feature is doing what it's supposed to do, then it's functional. But if it tests to see how well a feature does what it's supposed to do, then it's non-functional. I have a question for you. If I want to test how easy it is to install an app on my phone, is that functional or non-functional? So let's say, do I just have to go to my app store to download it, or I have to do some manual configurations on my phone just to be able to download it? So leave your answers in the comments below. So generally in your project, your functional test will come before your non-functional test because you need to have a working system first before you can look for ways to make it better. And if you liked this video or you like videos like this, you're interested in QA or tech, or if you have areas you would like to see me talk about, just leave a comment below, like my video, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Bye.